This is Cowboy Bob. Welcome to the 4th edition of the Piltdown Superman podcast. Today I'm going to talk about emotions and rational thought. This could almost serve as a pre-introduction to my upcoming series on logical fallacies, but I'll deal with appeal to emotion at a later time in more depth. Yes, we all have emotions. We're not like certain sci-fi characters that are devoid of them. God gave us the gift of emotions. But emotions are not rational. Somebody told me when I complained that they're not logical that emotions respond to logic. I'm not entirely sure that that's correct, but I think we should try to get a handle on them so there's a bit of truth to that statement. One of the problems that we have is that people will think with their emotions. The ability to think critically is much rarer than it used to be. When I use the word critically, I'm not talking about the frequent definition of the word of being critical as in looking down somebody's nose at someone else or an object or music or whatever and just being negative, finding fault. No, critically as in examining. For instance, when it comes to evolution, many creationists do believe that evolution should be taught in schools. However, it should also be taught with the ability to think critically and examine the evidence. This includes the faults in the evidence and not simply the one-sided propaganda that masquerades as education today, where people are only presented one side of the story and are not shown any flaws in the theories or are only given the biased and most favorable view. True education involves teaching people how to think, not telling them what to think. Now, I went off on a little bit of a tangent there because I mentioned the word critically. An important word to learn here is connotations. Word selection can have a tremendous impact based on the connotations of the words selected. Some people don't even want to call themselves Christians anymore because for many people that word has a bad connotation or that it's pretty much lost its meaning and they'd prefer to be called followers of Jesus. Similarly, to some people the word creationist has a bad connotation. Anyway, the ability to think critically is much rarer than it used to be. And people have capitalized on this. They will manipulate emotions. They will appeal to them, especially in matters of politics and religion. And people will use loaded terminology because of bad connotations or just because it's a strong word in the first place, and they'll do this to provoke emotions. There is a difference between motivate and manipulate. Motivational speakers, yes, they will appeal to emotions, but hopefully they'll give you something that you can sink your mind into. Just watch for it when somebody starts using very strong words. That's evil. That's a really overused word. Speaking of overused, Nazi or fascist. It's quick to provoke an emotion. And some people will say, you're a fascist. They don't even know what the word means. Or you could say somebody is a disgrace or something. The new healthcare plan is disgraceful. Somebody is incompetent. Now, sometimes it can be a conclusion that somebody reaches. They've thought about it, looked at some facts, and then they've realized, no, this person is being disgraceful or is incompetent in their profession. But to just start out with it and to use it as part of your presentation then you're appealing to emotion. And that gets into manipulation. I'm going to read to you from something that's in front of me right now. It says,
"Well, such and so, our favorite page troll, just posted some drivel about how all atheists are evil because of what some whiner posted on YouTube. Using his feeble logic, the corollary must therefore be all Christians are stupid because of the idiot in this news article," with a link posted. Obviously, a sample size of 2, the idiot in this post and him, is meaningless by any competent statistical measure, but that's the flawed logic that has made him the author of one of the world's worst books.
Now that thing is just dripping with venom and hate. It's also an example of what's called playing to your base. That is, you're writing it for your own audience and the kind of people that are going to just agree with you anyway. But somebody that is objective and a critical thinker will look at this and think, all of these emotional words, and I have some questions about the logic in some of the assertions here, they'll just write this off and say, hey, I don't want to deal with this kind of thing. From loaded terminology, I'd like to turn to labels. And one of the most famous labels that you're going to get, especially in the United States, is racist. People make that kind of accusation just out of a knee-jerk reaction. Another dandy label is homophobe, which is pretty much a meaningless term now, but the way it's used is primarily to provoke emotion. Personally, I don't phobe any homos. The term is used for anybody who wants to stand up for biblical principles and says that homosexuality is a sin. Oh, you're a homophobe. Yes, instead of rational discussion, let's use the emotionally laden word to label somebody and try to get other people on your side to hate them. Now there's retard, and a variation on that, creotard. Those are pretty much obvious name-calling. Also the word free thinker. That's not a negative term, but it's also loaded to mean I disbelieve in God, and therefore I am a free thinker. That word itself is logically fallacious. Then there are some that I like. Atheopath, Christophobe, misotheist. I've used these frequently. Usually, I use them as a conclusion when after somebody has been ranting and showing that they hate creationists, they hate Christians, they hate God, and that is my conclusion, so I'm basically calling it as I see it. Well, sure, there are expressions of disdain or emphasis, and we are emotional people. We do express how we feel. We cannot just be absolutely clinical and logical. But more on this kind of thing later on when I get into the logical fallacy of the ad hominem, or to the man. And now,
Atheopath Follies.
I had posted a video at the Question Evolution Project on rules for evolutionists on dealing with contrary evidence. It was a fun, sarcastic piece, and it showed all kinds of negative things that we creationists and Christians have to endure from evolutionists and atheists. Two of the things in there were the ad hominem attack. Another was the fallacy of saying, yeah, but you do it too. And these people unwittingly proved me right. In their post, they said,
"It's funnier still, they try to say it's no fair if we point out that every single accusation they make is actually what they do."
Further, There's a straw man fallacy in this, but we'll get into that another time. And then, get this comment.
Sometimes insult is justified. This is just one of those times.
Oh, really? You are justifying a logical fallacy of the ad hominem attack, or just being insulting, also basing it on some kind of a moral ground that you are right and justified in being rude and offensive. Oh boy. Rational thought has left the building. So let's keep an eye out for when people are going to try to manipulate our emotions and appeal to them, and also to keep an eye out that we don't do it ourselves when we're trying to present our premise or in a discussion or argument. Now here's another connotation bonus for you. Argument does not really mean, yes it is, no it isn't, you're a big doo-doo head. Argument as in presenting your case with a series of logical steps. We as Christians and creationists have to try harder to have logical discussions and arguments and not be manipulative.